Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's February the 14th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined today by Azubi Charles and Stephen Wagner as we discuss the news of the day, presented once again by Life Wallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. Happy Valentine's Day, guys. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Big day for some people, I know. I recommend we've given Matt Shodell the day off. Okay, because he has to sleep in with the missus, and he's got to go out to eat early, because I don't know if you've ever tried to go out to eat on Valentine's Day at night for dinner. It is an absolute nightmare. Okay, I mean, the restaurants are crowded. They have special menus full of stuff you don't want to eat. So we need to give Matt some time today to fulfill all of his Valentine's Day obligations, I imagine he's going out for brunch instead of dinner tonight. But Mrs. Shodell, I'm sure, is very, very happy that she's getting ready. I mean, that she's able to celebrate a full Valentine's Day with Matt. So, guys, it's up to us and to carry the torch here. And you guys have been pounding it on recruiting the last few days, so we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. The offensive coordinator search, at least as of now, which is 5 a.m. this morning, continues. Although I got to believe that we are getting really, really close to an announcement on who the new offensive coordinator is going to be. So we're on watch for that minute by minute here as we go forward today. But I thought I would start, Azubi, with the North Carolina basketball game last night. You covered it, and I thought it was like really interesting, because I didn't think they came close to playing as well as they normally would. I thought Isaiah Wong had kind of like a sleepy game. Norchad Omier, once again, foul trouble. I mean, I don't know. Like, I love him as a player, but I don't know if he quite understands that when the degree of difficulty amps up in March, that his propensity to get in these early fouls and get in foul trouble could end up ending this team's season. I mean, Zuby, they played almost the entire first half without him.
Norchad played 6 minutes in that first half, but the beauty of Miami basketball this year is, Isaiah Wong had a slow game. Norchad had a slow game, but you guys have two guys in Jordan Miller and Nigel Pack with 20-plus point performances. So in all that darkness in Norchad, having early foul trouble, you just saw the potential of this team with two guys that can score the rock at any given moment, still give Miami that push, with your second leading scorer out for the majority of this first half, and you still end up, going up by 1.5 and still winning this game by a pretty good margin. I feel like that's a good sign for the Hurricanes, but definitely something to watch out for is that Norchad foul trouble as we get closer to the ACC tournament, the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, maybe I'm a worrywart, but I see the potential of this team. I think this is a potential Final Four basketball team. I think they're built for March. I mean, they can score. Their defense has been improving. They got 5 guys now with Poplar playing consistent basketball game after game. I mean, how many teams out there have 4 superstar level players and then a 5th guy that's a role player but pretty darn good? I don't know if there's that many in the country. Steven, you're a college basketball guy. You've been around college basketball for a while, and certainly throughout the early parts of your career here. Have you seen many college basketball teams that got 4 like all ACC level starters and then a 5th guy that can make a solid contribution?
Miami is consistently just kind of shocking me a little bit. And I mean that in the most positive, best way that I possibly can. And that every single week I keep on thinking, there's no way, like they're really this good, they're really this balanced, they're really this deep, and they're really this evenly distributed. Because the best thing about Miami is any given night, it can be anyone's game. There's obviously, like Poplar's been really good. Miller's been really good. Nigel Pack, whenever he gets hot, is really, really good. So there's a lot of depth to this team. And every single week I keep on thinking, like, okay, like this is going to be the week where they kind of hit a snag. They kind of hit a setback, but they've just knocked off Duke and Carolina. They didn't cover the spread against Louisville. I saw somebody in one of our message boards was very, very upset and lost a very substantial amount of money on that. So
he laid 21 points, Stephen. Can you imagine this? I think the line was 21, and he bet 15,000 on Miami.
My heart goes out to that man. I hope he can still afford his CaneSport subscription. But there is a lot to like about the Canes right now. The way I see it, I think Miami is a Sweet 16 team. I think right now they're in the AP poll, around 15th or something like that. And I feel like that's exactly where this team is right now. I feel like that's very accurate. I feel like this team is about top 16 in the country. I feel like if March Madness happened right now, they'd probably make it 3 rounds and end up in the Sweet 16. Now, of course, once you get to that point, it really just depends what side of the bracket you end up on and who's being upset on the other side of the bracket. This is where seeding is really going to come into play. And quite frankly, that's kind of at a point where you hope that you get lucky and you maybe catch a break or two and someone on the other side of the bracket gets upset. You hope a 1 or a 2 seed gets a really bad loss, maybe in like the round of 64, the round of 32. And then from there, you kind of roll the dice and you see where you can go. But this to me is a team that kind of just keeps on continually surprising me. I think one area that they need to improve in is I think what would really put this team over the top and kind of make them maybe an Elite 8 team or a Final Four team is I'd like to see them be a little bit more dominant in the paint. And what I mean by that is like maybe having just maybe owning the interior. I'd really like to see more second chance points. I'd really like to see them really kick it up a notch once they get inside. But their guard play, their ball handling, their playmaking ability, all the way around, this is a team that screams Sweet 16 to me right now.
Anthony Walker has to play better. Like to come even close to what you're talking about. Anthony Walker cannot be the total disaster when he's on the court that he has been the majority of the time this year. He has to play better than what he's been doing. I mean, it's been really bad. And so does AJ Casey, the other big off the bench. I mean, those two guys are the key, going to be big keys to the season, along with Norchad Omier not getting into foul trouble in the first half of basketball games. That is going to determine their fate as they get into the NCAA tournaments. There's no doubt about it. Because Wong and Pack and Miller, they are consistent, the game after game after game. And Wong didn't have to play hero ball against Carolina, but the guy that to me, Azubi, has really stepped up is Pack. Mm-hmm. Okay, Nigel Pack, I think, has finally settled into this team. And he had a little uneven moments in the early part of the season. I think he was feeling the pressure coming over to the Hurricanes, coming into the ACC, living up to his big NIL deal. But once he's settled into the season, Azubi, he's been playing pretty darn well, and you can really see a difference in how he's shooting the basketball.
100%. I feel like his kind of breakout moment was at 17 points in 5 minutes that he had a couple games back. And another thing, I feel like he's finding his role a little bit more comfortable now. When he first came in at Kansas State, he was more of a shooting guard playing off the ball, but now as the kind of true point guard for the Hurricanes, he kind of had to adjust to having a guy like Isaiah Wong in the backcourt with him where he usually gets most of the touches or vice versa. But I feel like Pack and Wong are really, really finding their stride together as a backcourt duo and are playing really well off each other. And like you said, some games Wong doesn't have to play hero ball and Pack can pick up the slack. And if Pack is kind of slacking a little bit, he can, bank on Wong being that guy for that game. So I feel like they balance each other out extremely well. And I really, really hope to see this continue as we head towards March Madness.
All right, we're at the 10-minute mark of the show, and there are people watching that are about to crash their cars or drive off the road because we have not gotten to football yet. So I'm jumping over right this minute And yes, the offense coordinator search is still going on. And guys, it's taken a while. Mario Cristobal is talking to a lot of people, interviewing a lot of guys. Some, the guys on our message boards are a little bit panicked at the length of this coaching search. I am not one of them. I don't see any issue with Mario being thorough. I don't see any issue with him using these opportunities as seminars for his coaching staff to bring all these offense coordinators through the building and discussing why they do, what they call, when they call it. And I think it could be very educational for a coaching staff. And I don't have any problem with the timing either, because when I look at spring practice, and I got jumped on for this opinion, but I just really feel this way. You got spring practice starting 3 weeks from today, actually, and they have 3 practices, and then they have 9 days off. Okay, so you don't have to install the entire new offense the first 3 practices of spring drills. You can install some of your basic core plays the first few weeks. The new coordinator who comes in can do so. Then he can use the next 9 days to work with the coaching staff on the rest of the install, so that when the players come back from spring practice, now everybody is ready to go full speed ahead into this new offense. Am I crazy, guys? Steven, am I nuts? I mean, I don't see Panic City in any of this.
No, not at all. I wouldn't necessarily be extremely panicked either. I mean, obviously, the more hands on deck that you can have in a spring practice, the better. But the truth of the matter is that most of this stuff that they're learning in the spring is not going to be overly complex. The spring is really used to learn the identity of what you want your offense to be. You want your offensive identity to kind of be carved out and kind of be taught in the spring. So if you're going to be a zone run blocking team, you want your offensive line to understand all of your different blocking rules. You want your quarterbacks and running backs to get thousands of reps handing the ball off to one another. You want a little bit of chemistry to kind of start to develop a little bit. But in terms of the actual concepts that you're going to be running, you're not going to introduce 55 different concepts. You're not going to introduce 55 different formations. You're just going to introduce the basic key stuff that you're going to base your offensive rules and your defensive rules out of. For a lot of teams, that's just going to be basic spread personnel, 11 personnel, maybe 10, depending on the team that you like, maybe 12. A lot of just basic ace formations, or a lot of really evenly balanced sets. And another reason for this, kind of a smaller reason, but a little bit of a reason too, is whenever the spring game actually rolls around, most coaches don't want to show everything that they have in their playbook during the spring game. You just kind of want everything to be really, really vanilla. You want your players to just be able to get good at the really vanilla stuff now. So, overall, in terms of actually learning the identity and that actual part of the install, it doesn't take nearly as long as people think it does. Obviously, you want your team to be, interacting with these coaches so that you can start to develop that chemistry and you understand what the coach's expectations for this team are going to be, kind of the way that he wants the team to look, the values that he wants the offense to have on the field. That's going to be something that you would hope would be carved out during the spring. But yeah, this is not going to be something that's overly complex, something that's ridiculously over the top for someone to learn.
Zuby, you played ball. As a player, would you be concerned that 3 weeks before spring practice, your coordinator's not in place? You don't have any idea what the playbook's going to look like. Is that a panic point for the Hurricanes?
For me as a player, I wouldn't be too concerned with that, because like Steven said, the spring is, all right, hey guys, let's get this offense, in our minds. Let's see what we're working with, it, get out the baby kinks, and then, go from here to see where we're at with this offense. The only concern I would sort of have with not hiring an offense coordinator right now is kind of getting behind the 8 ball with recruiting, because we know how big that is in college football. So that would be my only concern. Maybe, kind of a month back or something like that with recruiting, but I don't feel like that's too big of a concern. I feel like Mario's taking his time with this hire, because I feel like this could be potentially the, if not biggest hire of his time in Miami, getting this kind of second chance to get the right offensive coordinator in there, because we all know how bad Miami struggled last year on the offense side of the ball. So I feel like he's trying to hit a home run with his hire, and I have no problem with him, taking his time to find the perfect guy for the job in Miami.
All right, I'm going to shift gears to recruiting here in a minute. But first, let's hear from our friends at LifeWallet.
Hey sis, want to play one-on-one? What about 3-on-3? Let's do it. You're not Haley. Wait a minute.
LifeWallet user not detected.
I knew it.
Secure your health information and privacy with LifeWallet. LifeWallet. Saving time, saving lives.
Those girls have been balling. I don't know if you guys have noticed. They've been doing pretty well. They hit a little bit of a wall against Duke the other day, but they've been playing pretty well. Canes women's basketball looks like they're going to be a tournament team, and good for them. And before I move on, you guys want to wish Haley and Hannah happy Valentine's Day or anything, or should I just keep going?
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
I choose to give an answer that won't jeopardize my job.
All right. I just like to joke around about that. I mean, you guys are basically their age. So, all right. Let's talk a little bit about some of these recruiting stories. Let's see. Stephen, I'm going to start with one of yours. The Canes are battling with Florida and other top schools for standout defensive lineman from Gainesville, Buckholz, a 2024 three-star by the name of Kendall Jackson. He might be a three-star, Stephen. He is hearing from the Hurricanes every single day. Tell us a little bit about that story and your thoughts on his recruitment.
Yeah, Kendall is, he's definitely an interesting prospect. Miami's in a dogfight right now, and this is the case that they're in with with quite a few recruits. It seems like we hear over and over again, hey, Miami's in a dogfight with, like Florida State, Florida, and a couple other SEC schools. Miami's in a dogfight with Florida State, Florida, and a couple other SEC schools, both for offensive linemen and defensive linemen. Jackson's a guy who Miami definitely has interest in. He's a guy that they're continuing to pursue. I would expect him probably to get to campus at some point during the spring for a visit. When specifically, I'm not really sure when he's going to be able to lock in that visit. But he's another guy who Miami wants him on campus sooner rather than later. And with a lot of these guys, with a lot of with quite frankly every 2024 recruit that they're battling, a lot of these in-state schools, a lot of Southern SEC schools, and some other ACC rivals. For the sooner they can get these guys to campus, the better.
He came by for the October 22nd game last season against Duke. Not the greatest moment, obviously, and he's supposed to be back potentially for Junior Day on March the 4th. So that'll be one to watch. The Hurricanes trying to pick up some momentum with Kendall Jackson. Another one that Miami's been chasing pretty hard is Paramus, New Jersey Catholic offensive tackle Juan Minaya. We got a story on him today. He's also going to be flying in for this Junior Day on March the 4th. We're going to be busy on March the 4th. I'll tell you what, guys, there's going to be a whole lineup of dudes parading into the Schwartz Center on March the 4th. Stephen, Juan Minaya talked to you about how hard Miami's recruiting him. Alex Mirabal really gets after it when he and Mario hone in on the guys that they want. And the interesting thing about Juan Minaya is that he also has Hispanic coaches. His mom doesn't speak very much English. I got to think there's going to be a lot of communication in Spanish during this recruitment, guys. Does that give Mirabal and Cristobal a little bit of an advantage?
I asked him that exact same question, and he said it's a plus. And I think that it very obviously is going to be a plus. I mean, you've got a couple of coaches. I'm not sure if Coach Mirabal speaks Spanish. I know Coach Cristobal does, for a fact, because I remember seeing Coach Cristobal's opening press conference before I came here to cover the Canes. But Coach Cristobal, whenever they get to the point that they do meet his mother, because he said that they haven't actually met yet, I've got to think that, Coach Cristobal, Coach Mirabal being able to converse with his mother, in her native tongue, which probably is something that I'm willing to bet that not a ton of other coaching staffs can do. I'm not, very familiar with the with the Spanish speaking abilities of other coaching staffs, but I feel like this definitely has to be a leg up, and Juan Minaya agrees. It is a plus. He's hearing from Cristobal and Mirabal a lot. We're seeing Coach Cristobal quite frequently kind of act as the secondary recruiter to Alex Mirabal with a lot of these offensive line recruits that Miami really wants. And that's certainly the case here. He's hearing from Cristobal. He's hearing from Mirabal. Coach Mirabal obviously has a reputation of being a very, very good offensive line recruiter, and we're seeing this kind of pan out in this cycle as well. The recruits that he is having contact with, they all say fantastic things about him, and it's pretty hard for me to find someone who says something that they don't like about the way that Miami's coaching staff is interacting with them. And certainly that starts with Mirabal. They're all pushing to get these kids to campus sooner rather than later. And a couple of weeks ago, after the Battle Miami 7-on-7 tournament, it kind of seemed like, hey, Miami's probably having their biggest recruiting weekend of the year whenever they had, I think, like 1,400 kids on campus or something ridiculous like that. Well, right now, March 4th might be shaping up to be a bigger weekend than that, not in terms of the number of kids that are on campus, but in terms of the importance of these kids, because Juan Minaya is going to be there. It's going to be headlined by Jeremiah Smith and Air Nolan. Like I said, Minaya will be there too. And it seems like, Miami is trying to get every priority target in the 2024 class that they can down to Miami for this March 4th Junior Day.
All right, another one that we have a story on today is Clearwater Cavalry Christian offensive lineman Joseph Ayanada. This recruiting effort is mimicking last year's recruiting effort where Mirabal went hard at offensive linemen early, and it worked out pretty well. You see who they've gotten commitments from in the 2023 class. Ayanada is the number 47 interior offensive lineman in the 2024 class, according to the On3 consensus. He's being aggressively pursued by both Miami, Florida, has some interest from Ole Miss. So this is another one that Mirabal and Cristobal are recruiting real hard. All right, guys, we got a few other things on the website today. Football wise, we take an early look at what Clemson returns. We're doing this for every team on the schedule, what they return and why the Miami Hurricanes can win the game. And Matt Valentine's Day, Shodell, took the task of hacking this one out. And, guys, Clemson's a team. They've won 10 or more games in each of the last 12 seasons. Okay. And, it's funny. They panic and they fire their offensive coordinator. They hire a new offensive coordinator, Garrett Riley, who's bringing the air raid system into Clemson. It's going to be interesting. I don't know that Miami can beat Clemson, Azubi, but it makes for a fun exercise in February when you don't have to try to do it until the fall.
Yeah, that Clemson hire with Garrett Riley, I think, was probably one of the best acquisitions for a team, with Clemson loaded with talent. And you see what he did at TCU with, obviously not the same talent level as Clemson. But, looking ahead to that game, I honestly couldn't give you a score prediction or any type of prediction because there's so many different factors that's going to come into play by the time we play there. But just messing around with all those numbers and looking at things like that, I definitely expect Miami to put up a better effort than they did last year. and I'm hoping so they do it in front of the fans inside Hard Rock next season. Sorry.
All right, and today is Baseball Media Day, but before we get to Baseball Media Day, our resident baseball expert, or one of them, Cal Friedman, takes a look at how the Miami Hurricanes outfield is going to shape up. It's got a lot of talent, and it's got a lot of competition. So if you're a Canes baseball fan, make sure that you check out Cal's look at the outfield, and we will have a lot more baseball coverage later today and this week, coming off of Media Day as the Canes build towards the opening of their season against Penn State. All right, well, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you guys so much for starting out your Valentine's Day with us and making us part of your morning drive to work. If you like this show, like our YouTube channel, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube. And if you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, so that you can read all the fine work every single day that Azubi Charles and Stephen Wagner do, and occasionally Matt Shodell, please hop on over to CaneSport.com right now and take advantage of our introductory offer that'll take you up to the start of the football season, just $29.99, and we will be so thrilled to have you as part of our community. So for Stephen Wagner and Azubi Charles, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much once again, everybody, and we'll see you next time. And hopefully by then, we'll be talking about an offensive coordinator. Have a great Valentine's Day.